The Capitol attack is just a little bit more than a month in the past. In the near future, we're gonna have more events from Joe Biden, a speech to both chambers of Congress, and we're now being warned that that event is the next possible target of domestic terrorists. Acting Capitol Police Chief Yogananda Pittman said, "We know that members of the militia groups that were present on January 6th have stated their desires that they want to blow up the Capitol and kill as many members as possible," talking there about members of Congress. The police chief's warning was made in the context of her trying to justify to Congress why exceptional security measures put in place in the wake of the attack needed to remain until alternatives could be devised. A large area around the Capitol is still surrounded by a 7-foot non-scalable fence, and thousands of National Guard members continue to be deployed. Chief Pittman said that the extremist groups still want to send a symbolic message to the nation, which sounds like the goal of most terror groups, and we know how those tend to play out. She added that the crowd of Trump supporters grew to more than 10,000 that day, and about 800 entered the Capitol building. I know you might have been watching Fox News and you've been told that it was no big deal, nothing bad actually happened. But those people are still out there. They think that the big problem with January 6th was that it didn't go far enough, that they weren't successful in tracking down and assassinating politicians. And there are multiple groups out there right now that are desperate to do it. And upcoming events in DC are apparently ones that there is some sort of credible intelligence might be targeted by these groups in the near future. Thoughts?
Yeah, look, guys, it's the same story over and over again, and we can see clearly with these guys, oath keepers, etc. They do violence. They've always done violence, and I'm worried to death about it.
Yeah,
when you're at this point in an empire where you have nationalistic violence, and you have people willing to storm institutions of power out of a perceived unjust result in a democratic process, that they're willing to do that. And then the segment we just talked about, a senator basically calling for killing protesters, extrajudicial killing of protesters, because they want due process, they want bodily autonomy. When you're at this point, it's tough to think how you come back from it. And that is a real tangible fear that we have, and it's okay to have. But at the same time, I hope people understand that we need to be very cautious with the intelligence state, with the police state insisting, because the justification for this, like this was ultimately to justify further encampments and barriers around the Capitol. So it's important that we kind of balance both of these things. On Deep Dive on Tuesday, Ken Klippenstein joined to talk about how the FBI accessed cell phone towers on January 6th and also obtained data from members of Congress and their staff. And that is a privacy violation. That we should not have an intelligence state that does that. So the justification for all of these types of things, these broaches on your civil liberties, are ultimately because of these sensational events. We saw it in the wake of 9/11, and we're seeing it again here. So I'm urging people to exercise caution. It's a very real, tangible fear, but also we cannot just unilaterally disarm and let the intelligence state just walk all over our civil liberties.
Yeah, but Biden's president, so what's the worst that could happen?
So look, this is a giant problem on both sides. Number one, the right wing believes in violence. So yes, do I believe the authorities that they're planning to do tremendous violence when Biden speaks? Yes, I believe that. Remember, we talk about the rioters in Capitol on January 6th. There was the pipe bombs that they planted too. So they had planned to bomb all different parts of Washington D.C. Luckily, people who are violent, whether it's terrorists of any ilk or any religion or any political ideology, are usually idiots. So luckily they blew it and they couldn't get those bombs to work. Thank God, right? But at some point it's gonna work. And so these guys are literally playing with fire. So Godspeed to the authorities on stopping any specific plans by any extremists to do violence. But I'm also concerned that they then use that as an excuse for, all right, no more protests in Washington. No more protests by anybody, no more First Amendment, no more nothing, right? And who are they gonna crack down on first? The right wing? Inconceivable, because all they do is cry. Oh, we're not allowed to do violence anymore, we're so sad. Remember the good old days when we used to declare civil war and kill hundreds of thousands of Americans? Remember the good old days when we used to do lynchings, the right wing in this country? Well, okay, yes, you're not allowed to do lynchings. You're not allowed to commit violence anymore. I know you want to cry over that, right? But they're not going to. In the history of this country, the authorities almost never, ever hold the right wing accountable. What they do instead is immediately target innocent, peaceful left wingers because they view them as a structural challenge to the system. And that's just history, the history of the FBI, the history of every governmental organization in this country. But I will be fair in saying that over the last couple of years, the FBI actually has done a decent job in rooting out some right-wing extremists and stopping their plots before it happens.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of the exact same sorts of militia groups or KKK neo-Nazi groups. There have been a number of plots that have been stopped, and they don't often get talked. It's the weirdest thing. They don't really get talked about, like, plots to like bomb a Muslim center to start a race war. It's like barely news, which is sort of weird. I wonder why. I wonder if it was a different religion, if it would be different. But I did want to also mention in terms of the violence, I'm very glad that both of you talked about the fact that, whether it's the Capitol Police or, people who are saying we need big new legislation, effectively a second Patriot Act, when last time I checked, terrorism's illegal. But also we do have those groups that are waiting out there. And right now, CPAC is going on, and it's effectively like Comic-Con for mouth breathers. And right now we're laughing at Ted Cruz, who is joking about murdering protesters, something like that. This weekend, Donald Trump is gonna speak, his first like big speech since he went away. And what's like the over/under for your sports people's talk of the number of times he will tell these people that the election was stolen, that it was unacceptable, they won by a landslide, what are you gonna do about it? And sure, he's going to do that for the next few years, but there's like what, 5 million people that think Trump is gonna become president again on March 4th? And there are people who are like crossing their fingers and really hoping that the State of the Union gets blown up, and he is going to tell them they stole the election again.
Yeah, guys, it's the great unrest has begun. I think mainstream media and mainstream politicians just don't get it. They think things are gonna go back to normal. They're not gonna go back to normal. 80% of Republican voters don't just like Donald Trump, they love Donald Trump. They didn't just like the violence on January 6th, they love the violence on January 6th. So they're gonna do more of it. Trump is going to encourage them. And there's another thing, you guys, that everybody has to understand. I just talked to 2 right wingers in back-to-back interviews over the last week. They are not getting access to actual information. They only see on their social media and in their traditional media conservative sites and channels. So they don't even have any access to reality at all. So this is what a lot of people are missing. And sometimes I think I have to say it clearer and better. They really believe that Joe Biden stole the election. They really believe that democracy is gone because the globalists and the World Health Organization, and I know you think there's no way, they can't, no one really can't believe that. It's in the polls, guys, read the polls. 73% of Trump voters say that Biden did not win the election. So they genuinely believe, like Tom Hanks and Fauci and all these guys work together to steal the election. They genuinely believe it. Why are they doing violence? Because they think, well, I gotta get democracy back somehow. I gotta get it back from Fauci and Biden. And what would you do if you thought Trump had stolen democracy? That's what they're thinking. And so as long as Trump keeps saying it, and John's absolutely right, Trump's gonna come on and give a big speech about how it was stolen from him and everybody should be super angry, and it's gonna work. And they're gonna get angry, and it's gonna create stochastic terrorism. And we will have that ongoing violence for a long time.
There's one thing that I think Trump just desperately craves right now, and it's attention. And you talk about how the social media bubbles shape what right wingers see, but he's effectively deplatformed. So the one thing that he could do to guarantee that he breaks back into that space through news coverage, through secondary commentary, through people talking about him. I would not be surprised if at CPAC he announces he's running for re-election or he's running for 2024. Mitch McConnell kind of signaled it this week, saying he would back him if he ran. He's been rumored to have run. His campaign infrastructure is alive and well. It would allow fundraising, people to pay attention to him, which is what he wants, that flattery. So I would not be surprised if at CPAC, on top of denying the legitimacy of the results of the election, that he would be running for re-election.
Yeah, by the way, Jordan, that's a great prediction. I had not considered that, but why wouldn't he? It would be smart political strategy because it instantly puts him back in the spotlight. And that's the thing that he craves and helps him politically to be back in that spotlight. He would instantly become the leading challenger to Joe Biden, and then and that's reality. That's not a lie. It's not a trick. It's true. And then so that he's back in the spotlight, and now everybody, all the media will say there's nothing we can do. We got to pay attention to what Donald Trump says. So wait for it. It's almost certainly gonna happen. If he doesn't do it at the CPAC speech, he'll do it some other time relatively soon. And Mitch McConnell surrendering. Well, look, I mean it goes two ways, right? One, that was quick. I told you, Mitch, you had lost. When he gave that big so-called fiery speech after voting to quit Donald Trump, he's like, oh, but I am going to hold him accountable. What he did was outrageous. I was like, BS, he's gonna fold. And you know what happened? The legendary Mitch McConnell, tough guy of all time, folded like a cheap suit. Folded immediately, folded within what, 2 weeks? So the only upside of it was to see now Mitch McConnell on top of Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz and everyone else, humiliated, now groveling at the feet of Donald Trump. Legendary Mitch McConnell goes, I think he can run and win. I like him. And the guy didn't read it, Donald. I didn't read it. Yeah, that's what we thought, Mitch.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.